And welcome back. Tifinie Capehart is a realtor and land consultant and also an adjunct professor of urban studies at Tennessee State University. And people may not know, but back in the day you were with Metro Planning as well. So you've got a wealth of knowledge and experience for the topic that we're talking about. And as we left before commercial, we were talking about sort of that, you know, the vision of what people are seeing. I think everybody, to your point, wants to see their neighborhood grow and thrive. No one wants to be in a dead neighborhood where there's nothing going on, right? But when you see that new structure that goes up, but ends up being a $1.5 million home next to the home that's been there forever, some people might say, okay, well, he's next to go. And this might be all part of that conversation that some people don't like to talk about, but others think it's a good thing, but the gentrification conversation. So is that what's happening in our neighborhoods, that affluent are coming in and taking and moving in and running out those folks that may not be able to afford to live there any longer?
So gentrification is a very complicated thing. I do a whole, a whole week's worth of lectures on it. But what I tell my students is gentrification really is about the essential character of a place changing. So so not just demographics, so people coming in with different races, different incomes, different educational backgrounds, but then also the character of a place changes. So those structures, those institutions that you've been used to for so long in a neighborhood, when those things start to disappear, that's also when the essential character of a place can change. When Jefferson Street no longer feels like TSU Fix Meharry, or Saturday morning people out grilling and selling stuff on the street. When that starts to change, that essential character changes.
It's lost.
It's lost. So that's really the crux of gentrification. But I do tell my students too that just because you see someone new in a neighborhood doesn't mean it's gentrified. You have to look at the data behind that. You have to look at historical changes in demographics. So when you start to see significant changes in demographics, then I think you can say a neighborhood has gentrified. But just to see somebody new moving in, we can't just call it that right off the bat. So
and people may just mistakenly think that gentrification means that an affluent couple, usually a white couple, will move back into the city, and then that neighborhood, the face of the neighborhood, literally starts to change. But that's not necessarily the case.
Right. So I, have always thought about, where are the black gentrifiers? Because I think we do have this idea that gentrification is all about, white people or non-minorities moving into a predominantly minority neighborhood. But it's a function, I believe, really of money. I could be a gentrifier. Because, I have a master's degree, my husband has 2 master's degrees, we do well. And what if we were to bring our money income resources into a neighborhood that doesn't have it?
Right.
So now are we the bad people because we come in and improved the house?
Yeah.
But I think there is a benefit to being a black gentrifier, because what I've seen in my work is, when I sit down oftentimes with a non-minority developer or someone that just wants to see neighborhood change, they want to change it. Now it's not all. I've had clients, white clients, who are saying, I don't want to be that guy. I don't want to be the guy that comes in and says, let's just change the name. But some people do, and they're not doing it, I don't think, intentionally. It's just, I just think that's just how some people are.
Yeah.
But as a black gentrifier, I can come into a neighborhood and say, no, I know what's here and I want to help enhance the character that's here. I want to be a voice for the people that look like me, because I know, it may not be my grandmother, but I know she reminds me of my grandmother. I know he reminds me of my uncle. I understand, and there's relevancy there, or relatability there.
Gotcha.
So I can be a voice. I can bring not only my income, time, and talents, but also my cultural background to these neighborhoods, and help be a part of that change that can help change it in a good way. that make sense?
It does. Yeah. I don't know whether do you still end up with the same result though, where people with influence and the resources run away the folks that don't have the resources to stay?
I think you could, but I think you could. It just depends on.
Is there more of a commitment to keep the culture there, you think, in your opinion?
I think there's more of a commitment there.
Gotcha.
And I think it's needed, honestly. I mean, because the thing with gentrification is that you have neighborhoods where people have been fighting for a really long time.
Oh, yeah.
You know, they've been fighting against crime, they've been fighting for better services,
redlining,
all of that. They've been fighting a very, very long time. And a lot of these neighborhood leaders are older and they're like, we are tired. And they're frustrated because the things that they've been yelling for, you know, not yelling, but the things that they've been working for a long time, someone non-minority comes in and is able to go knock on a door and get it, you know, immediately. And so I think that, you know, when young blacks can come into neighborhoods and continue to be that voice, you know, I think that's just helpful.
Yeah. Talk a little more about the voice, because in your line of work, in the real estate side of the things that you do, are you helping couples find that right neighborhood and doing business in these neighborhoods that are historic neighborhoods? Talk about what that looks like and your role in having a voice to make sure that we pay attention to some of those nuances, not just looking for the dollars to move in right, but to really restore and maintain some very, very precious neighborhoods.
Absolutely. So a few examples. So I had a client, lived in Antioch, you know, and they were looking for their next home, and we had found a house in North Nashville, you know, that fit their needs. It was new construction, and they were like, you know, we really want to be here. We want to be in this neighborhood and
come back from sort of the suburbs into the city.
Back in. And you know, we follow each other on Facebook, and I see that she's involved with the neighborhood association. You know, the neighborhood group over there. She's part of a urban biking group over there. You know, so and her kids are now in a school that's a black-owned Montessori school. So really integrated into that neighborhood. You know, as a resident, you know, a young black couple has done that. Personal story, my husband and I, we are, you know, under contract on a piece of property in Bordeaux. We wanted to move back into the city because I feel like, okay, well, now I can bring my expertise and my passion and what I know into this community to help, make it better over there. So yeah, I help people, all the time who want to move back into the city. They want to be closer to TSU, Fitz-Meharry. They want to be a part of the culture that's part of North Nashville,
Right.
And
it almost seems like, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off there, but it almost seems like it's a great time to move back to the city. I mean, because we're seeing it change sometimes almost overnight, right?
Absolutely. And I mean, and just to be, quite honest, I think that young black professionals are also saying, well, I want to be a part of the economic growth that we're seeing in Nashville. We don't want to be shut out of that, so we're like, you know what, let's go find a place closer into the city so that we also see that appreciation in our home as well, because real estate is like one of the largest investments that a lot of Americans, have. A lot of their money's tied up there, so that's where we put a lot of our money. So we want to see that money grow too. And the benefit of that both ways is that we're also bringing in, that love and passion that we have for these communities,
Yeah. Are there some things that are happening, Tifinie, in the community, conversations, I would say, happening that people should be aware of, that they should participate in when it comes to making sure we balance that growth and progression with the managing of the history? Yeah,
so it's interesting because I've been thinking a lot about, like, what does gentrification mean now in 2019? Because a lot of our, at least in Nashville, and then I think we've seen across the country, like, places like Brooklyn, have become, these new places. And my thinking is, are we done? Are we done? Is there any other place to gentrify,
right?
Really. And so that's kind of what I would have people thinking about, is kind of the way you get ahead of gentrification is you think about what's the next place, and then how do we begin to do the work before it happens.
Gotcha.
You know, so from a policy standpoint, thinking about, you know, where do we want to see new denser housing, so that we can preserve other places of housing there. Where do we see the need for more commercial and services? Are we going to see that change? You know, discussions around transit, or if there's new employment opportunities that are coming to a certain part of a city, what's going to happen to the neighborhoods around it. So just kind of thinking forward in that way.
You've got a website if people want to get involved and at least see what's going on. Is it Cities Speaks?
Cityspeakonline.net is my website, where you can find information, and I'm on social, so all my information's there.
Follow you and find out what's going on. Sounds like it's all about the balance, though.
Yeah,
all about the balance. Well, great. Tifinie Capehart, realtor, land consultant, adjunct professor of urban studies over at Tennessee State University. Thank you so much for being here and adding to this conversation. We appreciate that. And thank you so much for being here. We'll see you again next time.